Right now, somewhere in America, there is a 67-year-old man sitting in a financial advisor's office who thought he was fine. He spent 40 years contributing to his 401k every single paycheck. Never missed a contribution. Watch that balance climb from $50,000 to $200,000 to $600,000 to just over $900,000. And every time that number went up, he felt a little more confident that when the time came, he'd be ready. He did everything every financial article, every HR presentation, every well-meaning coworker told him to do. And now he's sitting across from an advisor being told that $900,000, the number he spent 4 decades building, is going to run out before he turns 85. That the signal he was watching all those years was the wrong signal entirely. Here's what nobody told that man. Your 401k balance is not your retirement income. It was never designed to be read that way. It is a machine, and the amount of income that machine can safely produce each year is dramatically smaller than the number on your screen. And when you factor in taxes, healthcare costs, inflation, and a risk that most retirement conversations never even mention, the gap between what you think you have and what you actually have can be the difference between retiring in comfort and running out of money in your 80s while you're still healthy enough to feel every bit of it. My name is Ken. Today I want to have the conversation that nobody had with that 67-year-old man until it was too late. I'm going to show you exactly what your 401k balance is hiding, walk you through the calculation that actually tells you if you're on track, and show you the true story of two people, same income, same decade, same market, who ended up in completely different retirements because one understood what we're about to cover and one didn't. If you're in your 40s right now, this video is specifically for you. The decisions you make this decade determine everything that comes after. Let's get into it. If this is the kind of honest financial conversation you've been looking for, hit subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. We're a small channel genuinely trying to get this information to the people who need it before it's too late, and every subscriber helps us reach more of them. Now let's talk about the number your 401k has been hiding from you. When you look at your 401k balance, your brain reads it like a bank account, as money you have, as security, as proof you're going to be okay. But that balance isn't a number you can spend. It's a number that generates income. And the income it generates safely is dramatically smaller than the balance itself. The standard financial planners use for safe annual withdrawals is called the 4% rule. Research based on every 30-year retirement window in American market history asking one question. What is the highest withdrawal rate a diversified portfolio would have survived without running out of money? The answer is 4%. For every $1 million saved, you can withdraw approximately $40,000 per year. Not $100,000, not $80,000, $40,000. Withdraw more than that consistently, and you are running a real, documented risk of outliving your money. Now feel that math for a second. If you're living on $90,000 a year, you need about $72,000 in retirement. Social Security pays the average American around $22,000 per year, so your savings must generate $50,000 annually, which at the 4% rule means you need $1,250,000 saved. If you earn $110,000 right now, your target is $1,650,000. Earning $140,000, you're looking at $2,250,000. These numbers are bigger than most people expect, and that gap between expectation and reality is exactly where retirement plans fall apart in silence. And here's what makes this more urgent. Most Americans aren't close to these targets. The average 401k balance for Americans in their 50s is around $180,000. The median is closer to $87,000. Run $87,000 through the 4% rule, and you get $3,480 per year in retirement income from savings, $290 a month. Combined with average Social Security, that's about $24,000 per year. For most Americans, that is not enough. That is the quiet crisis hiding inside the growing balance that so many people are watching and feeling reassured by. Even when your balance looks substantial, 3 specific forces are working against you that most retirement conversations skip entirely. The first is taxes. If you have a traditional 401k or IRA, which most American workers do, every dollar you withdraw in retirement is taxed as ordinary income, just like a paycheck. That $800,000 balance has a government claim on it that doesn't show up anywhere on your app. Let me put real numbers on this. Say you withdraw $60,000 per year from your traditional 401k. After the standard deduction for a married couple in 2024, about $29,200, your taxable income comes to roughly $30,800. Federal tax on that is approximately $3,200. Add average state taxes, and your total bill lands around $5,000 to $6,000 per year. Your $800,000 isn't $800,000 in spending power. After the taxes owed as you draw it down, it's closer to $720,000. For a lot of people, that $80,000 gap is the difference between being okay and not being okay when something expensive arrives. The second force is healthcare. According to Fidelity's most recent research, the average American couple retiring at 65 today needs approximately $330,000 over retirement just for healthcare, premiums, copays, deductibles, prescriptions, and that doesn't include long-term care. Assisted living in the U.S. averages $54,000 per year. 2 or 3 years of that adds another $100,000 to $160,000 that most retirement plans never specifically account for. That gap, when it shows up, can unravel a retirement that looked perfectly fine in every projection. The third force is inflation. At 3% average annual inflation, the lifestyle that costs $60,000 today requires $80,600 per year 20 years from now, and $121,000 30 years from now to buy the exact same things. A retirement income that feels comfortable at 65 starts feeling tight at 75 and genuinely painful at 85, precisely when your options to fix it are most limited. Even if you've saved the right amount and accounted for taxes, healthcare, and inflation, there is one more risk that most retirement conversations almost completely ignore. It can take a well-funded retirement and turn it into a crisis within the first few years of you stopping work, without a single bad decision on your part. It's called sequence of returns risk. Here's how it works. 2 people retire the same day with identical savings, $1,100,000 each. Same withdrawals every year, same average annual market return over 30 years. The only difference is the order of the good and bad years. Person 1 retires into strong early markets. Their portfolio grows and withdrawals come from an expanding base. Person 2 retires right into a 38% market crash. They still need to pay their mortgage, utilities, groceries, healthcare. Life doesn't pause. So they keep withdrawing while their portfolio is losing more than a third of its value, selling shares at the worst possible prices. Those shares are gone permanently. When the market recovers, Person 2 doesn't have enough left to fully participate in that recovery. Despite identical average returns over 30 years, Person 1 ends the period with nearly $2 million. Person 2 runs out of money completely. Same balance, same returns. Catastrophically different outcomes, because of timing they had no control over. This is exactly what happened to Brian, and it's the specific risk Sarah protected herself against. Let me show you how both stories played out. Before we get to Brian and Sarah, here is the 3-step calculation that gives you an honest picture of where you stand. Step 1. Estimate your annual retirement expenses at roughly 80% of your current income. If you're living on $90,000 now, your target is about $72,000 per year in retirement. Step 2. Find your real Social Security estimate. The average is around $22,000 per year. Go to ssa.gov this week, create a free account, and look at your personalized number. It takes 10 minutes and it changes your target significantly. Step 3. Subtract Social Security from your retirement expenses, then divide that gap by 4%. That is your savings target. If you need $72,000 and Social Security covers $22,000, your savings must generate $50,000 annually. Divide by 0.04 and your target is $1,250,000. Write that number down. That is what you are actually building toward, Not the balance you have today, but the balance you need to reach. Most people have never done this calculation. Most people are building toward a vague idea of enough. And vague ideas of enough are exactly how someone ends up in that advisor's office at 67, feeling the floor drop out. Brian is 45 years old, earns $95,000 a year, and has $280,000 saved. He has been contributing since his late 20s, his balance has grown every year, and every time he opens the app, he feels a quiet reassurance. The plan is working, things are fine. He has never run the retirement income formula. The growing balance has always felt like enough of an answer. Brian retires at 65 with a pre-tax balance of $1,472,000. He feels genuinely great, takes his wife to dinner, sleeps in the next morning without an alarm for the first time since college. He finally exhaled. And then, 14 months into retirement, the market drops 38%. Not because of anything Brian did, just because that's what markets do sometimes. And Brian happened to retire right before one of those times. His pre-tax balance was never fully his. After taxes on traditional 401k withdrawals, his real spending power was closer to $1,100,000. Now that $1,100,000 has just lost 38%, his portfolio drops to roughly $682,000 before his withdrawal that year. But Brian still has a mortgage, utilities, groceries, healthcare premiums. So he keeps withdrawing his $52,000, his $74,000 in annual expenses, minus his $22,000 Social Security, while his portfolio is at its lowest point. He is selling shares at the worst possible prices, and those shares are gone permanently. By the end of year 2, his spending power has collapsed to around $638,000. The market recovers, but Brian doesn't have enough shares left to fully ride it back. The math has changed in a way that waiting cannot fix. At 72, Brian runs the projections seriously for the first time. He is going to run out of money at 94, while still alive, while still fully aware of what is happening. After 40 years of saving consistently, after doing everything right, after watching that balance climb his entire career. The growing number felt like the answer. It wasn't. It was just a number. Sarah is 41, earns $88,000 a year, and a few years earlier she came across the retirement income formula. She ran her numbers honestly. At 8% savings rate, she was technically on a workable path, but with almost no margin for anything to go wrong. She also learned about sequence of returns risk, and that's what genuinely concerned her. Because it didn't matter how much she saved, if a market crash in the first 2 years of retirement could undo most of it. Sarah made 3 specific decisions. First, she increased her savings rate from 8% to 16%, an additional $7,000 per year that she found by not expanding her lifestyle as her income grew. Second, she split contributions between a traditional 401k and a Roth IRA, because Roth withdrawals in retirement are completely tax-free. What she sees in that Roth account is her actual spending power. No government claim waiting on the other side. Third, she built a 2-year cash buffer in low-risk bonds, specifically to protect against sequence of returns risk. If the market crashes early in retirement, she draws from the buffer instead of selling equities at depressed prices. She waits for the recovery. Then she goes back to normal withdrawals. Sarah retires at 65 with $1,500,000 saved. When the same 38% crash hits in year 2 of her retirement, she draws from her cash buffer. She does not sell a single share of her equity portfolio during the downturn. She waits. The market recovers. Her shares are all still there. By the time Sarah is 95, she still has over $1,800,000 in her portfolio. Her retirement never felt precarious. She never ran calculations wondering if she was going to make it. The difference between Brian and Sarah is not income. Sarah earned slightly less. It's not luck. They faced the exact same market. The difference is that Sarah understood 3 things Brian never learned: what her balance actually produced in income, what the real tax picture looked like in retirement, and what sequence of returns risk was, and how to protect against it. She learned all 3 at 41, while she still had 24 years of compounding ahead of her. Brian learned them at 72, when the only option left was to adjust and hope. If you're in your 30s or early 40s, run the formula today and find out whether your savings rate is actually building toward your real target. If there's a gap, increase your rate now while compounding has the most years to work. Also consider a Roth IRA or Roth 401k. Tax-free withdrawals in retirement are one of the most underused advantages available to American savers, and the earlier you start, the more that tax-free growth compounds. If you're in your late 40s or early 50s, every additional percentage point you add to your savings rate still has 15 or more years of compounding ahead of it. Go to ssa.gov this week and find your actual Social Security estimate. Build a real healthcare number into your retirement budget, and start thinking about a cash buffer strategy to protect against sequence of returns risk in those first critical years after you stop working. If you're 50 or older, catch-up contributions let you put up to $30,500 per year into a 401k instead of the standard $23,000. That extra $7,500 per year for 15 years at 7% adds approximately $191,000 to your balance. And delaying Social Security from your full retirement age of 67 to age 70 increases your monthly benefit by roughly 24% permanently. For a couple where one partner had strong earnings, that delay alone can mean over $300,000 in additional lifetime income. Imagine yourself at 75 on a Tuesday morning. The house is quiet. You woke up without an alarm. In one version of this morning, your first thought is about what you feel like doing today. The trip you've been planning, the book on the nightstand, calling your kid. You are not running calculations before your feet hit the floor. You are not checking the balance, hoping it's still enough. You're just living, the way you imagined retirement would feel when you were working toward it. In the other version of that same morning, the first thought is a number. You did the math last night. Social Security plus the withdrawal from what's left. It's close. Too close. And you're wondering if this is the year you go back to part-time work, what that conversation with your family looks like, and whether you should have done something differently 30 years ago when there was still time. Brian is living that second morning. Sarah is living the first. Both made their key decisions decades earlier. Both are waking up every day inside whatever those decisions built. The formula is right here. The question is whether you use it while you're still in the window where it changes everything. I'm Ken. This is Ken Invests YouTube channel. Share this with someone who needs this conversation before it's too late for them. Subscribe for more of this, and I'll see you in the next one. And one last thing. Nothing in this video is financial advice. I'm just showing you what the numbers look like. The decision is always yours.